So what I have is a stacked wall in my project, and it is not correct because it is a full height two-story wall here. I have my basement wall, what I call the brick ledge, then the bond, that's correct. And then I have my first floor wall, but I need a bond between the first and the second floor wall. And I don't have that. So let's say I've highlighted it. So let's say edit the type. And that shows me the information that I have here, but I want to be able to see my dimensions too. So, because that's the constraints that I want for the different wall types. So if we edit this wall, I can see the walls that I have here. And when you click on this little number here, it will highlight the object that is in it. So starting from the basement, I know that that's okay because that's my variable. And every stacked wall needs a variable because the top of the wall and the bottom of the wall, or what they call the base constraint and the top constraint, could be different. And so if we're setting absolute dimensions for these various wall heights, and then we change the overall height of it, then something needs to either expand or contract in order to satisfy the overall total height of that wall. And I generally make that my basement wall. So if we take a look, this basement wall should be 8'6". If I have it properly laid out with all the proper constraints, then the bottom of my basement wall will be my base constraint, which is where I want it to be. And the top of that basement wall will be 8'6". But in this case, it's a variable because it may change, but that will change to satisfy my constraints that I provide in the properties. So the second thing is I have a brick ledge here. The brick ledge is 10.5 inches. And sure enough, if we take a look here, we can see that wall type or row number two, I'm sorry, row number three, wall type number two, is my brick ledge and it's 10.5 inches. So that's great. Then my first floor bond area or rim joist area has to be 1'1.5 feet, and sure enough, it is. But now this wall needs to have two walls in it that are these dimensions with a bond in the middle. So it will be the same bond as this guy. So I will insert a new one, and it's going to be whatever this one is called, and I call it 3. So I'm going to insert another 3, and it should be between these walls. So I'm going to insert another 4, insert, and my wall, this wall should be 8'0.5" tall. I can see the dimensions, 8 feet, 0.5, enter. So that's the correct height. Now, number 3 should be up between those two walls, so I will tell it to go up. Now that looks good. That doesn't look good because it's supposed to be 10 feet, and it's 19 feet. So you highlight this guy, 19 feet, I want it to be 10 feet, according to my dimensions. So now I should have my second floor wall, my second floor bond, my first floor wall, my first floor bond, my brick ledge, and my basement wall. And if I say okay to that, let's, one thing I failed to do is to rename it. So any other walls in my house that are of this are also going to change, which may be okay, and it may not. I'll take a look and see what happens. Unjoin elements. I always say okay to these errors because generally I can go back in and see them in the view. Look at this. Now I have this guy. I have my bond is correct. I think. Let's see. Should be 1 foot. Let's let's click on this, and we'll click on this, and we'll come down to the little eyeglass and say isolate element. And whoops, I should have said isolate category. So back to reset temporary. I always click that button, never sorry, that it saves it. If you've ever lost your work, you know what I'm talking about. Now, this bond area should be 1 foot. Let's go back, edit this wall and see what happened there, because I don't know. I don't think it is 1 foot. And the second one is 1 foot, 1.5. It really should only be a foot. So there's where my error is. Let's say okay and see what happens now. And okay. Now my bond switched to the right height. It should be a foot. And the top of the wall is, well, up to level. Hover over it and it'll tell you what that is without stretching it out. Top of second floor wall, which is what I want right now. My bond is good, and my first floor wall is good. My first floor bond, brick ledge, and the variable stretched in order to accommodate the constraint that said, and that's exactly a very simple modification with one error on my part, is that I really should have renamed it or duplicated it and renamed it because all of the walls now that have this characteristic have been changed. That just means I might have to go back and change something else. Anyway, I hope that helps. It's a real quick look at just the secret I found is making a little dimension here to what your walls want to be, and then editing that wall and edit the structure. And now you have the exact answer of what all of these should be. Just put those values in here for the height. It should be good. So I hope that helped.